Welcome to Move the Chains with Jonathan Rivers. Here's your host, Jonathan Rivers.
And as always, let there be football. Welcome into the show. I'm your boy, Jonathan Bam Rivers, and I'm coming back with some more NFL buy or sell today. I want to really take the time to think about some opportunities in the NFL, especially when it comes to guys like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. So we're going to talk about buy or sell here like we did a few weeks ago. And also answer your social media questions. There are a couple of teams in the AFC North that I really want to discuss, and I think there's a team that everybody is buying to possibly be a championship contender this year, and I think they're a very good team and they're on the come up, but I just don't think this is the year. I believe in the team, not necessarily them being a champion though. So we'll talk about that. And in my nonsense narrative, I really want to touch on the conversation that's been happening for, I feel like, the past 4 or 5 years regarding coaches and players and who matters most. And there's always been one answer, and I can't believe people don't understand what it is. So I'm definitely going to hit that in my nonsense narrative. And the Hall of Fame enshrinement just took place. And I want to talk about an individual who was truly special and what he brought to the table and why he absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But you know how we do it. Let's start it off with first down. All right, so when we're talking about the NFL, like I said, I'm not necessarily a big prediction guy when it comes to records in the regular season. I'll have some connotation. I'll have some idea of who I think will win a division, who I think may be a Super Bowl favorite and stuff like that, which we'll discuss. But there are a lot of things that I buy when it comes to the NFL season. There are a lot of things that I'm selling because I told you before I'm big on stocks, so I like to incorporate this into the show. So let's start first with Lamar Jackson, quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, two-time MVP quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, and second-year offensive coordinator Todd Monken. I buy this pair. I buy the Baltimore Ravens. I definitely buy Lamar Jackson. And I ask this question to myself all the time. As we go back and we think about what happened in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs last year, when the Chiefs came out, their first 2 drives and went down and scored touchdowns. And this is where I wish that I was just a fly on the wall in some conversation in some meeting rooms with some of these NFL teams. Because I wonder at that moment, did John Harbaugh, Todd Monken, and Lamar Jackson and that whole team and that staff, did they decide, hey, we're not going to be able to be who we are in this game, so we need to come out throwing the ball more than we usually throw the ball? Now remember, Lamar Jackson was an MVP last year because he was the best dual-threat quarterback during the regular season, running and throwing the football. So it's not as if he wasn't effective throwing the ball down the field. My question is, I believe in this duo because it was their first season last year and they went to the AFC Championship game. And I think that loss to the Chiefs will help Baltimore in those moments. I'm not necessarily talking about just scheme. We know adding Derrick Henry was a big idea. It was a big thing. I just simply mean in terms of who you are and whom you will decide to be when it matters the most. I think they just kind of got out of character and got away from themselves, and that's what great teams make you do. So I think if you're Todd Monken, you're Lamar Jackson, you're John Harbaugh, you're the Baltimore Ravens, always stick to your guns, especially if you get down early. The key word there is early. You have time. So I believe in Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. I like this duo, and I kind of like where I see the trajectory of this team headed moving forward. All right, so Texans championship run. Now, if you listen to me talk on the show, one, I love C.J. Stroud. I love DeMeco Ryans. I love what Houston is doing. See, what Houston did, I don't know if a lot of people want to talk about it. Houston turned in that trade when they got rid of Deshaun Watson and sent him to Cleveland. They turned it into a phenomenal roster. Will Anderson on the defensive side of the football to go along with C.J. Stroud. So nobody talks about what Will Anderson has done at defensive end, and they've added guys like Danielle Hunter. This team is phenomenal. We know they've added Joe Mixon. We know they've added Stephon Diggs. Like, they're looking to be a juggernaut. But I want to remind everybody that the Houston Texans had a season last year of mostly everything going right. And what do I mean by that? Outside of Tank Dell, they were pretty much healthy, which is hard to do in an NFL season, and kudos to them in their strength and conditioning program. They were also very good when it came to turnover margin last year. So the Texans had an everything kind of goes right type season. When it comes to sports, especially in the NFL, things tend to correct themselves. I already told you I think C.J. Stroud may take a step back, not because I don't think he'll be able to throw 23 touchdown passes. I think he actually may throw more, but I also think he may throw a couple more interceptions, because to just throw 5 interceptions, especially as a rookie, is phenomenal. However, I think because they're going to try to open up the offense a little bit more, you may see the turnovers increase as well, just because it's a law of averages. So I love the Houston Texans. I'm just selling the idea that they'll be a championship team this year. If you ask me about the future, I have no doubt. And I could be wrong, and I wouldn't be upset if I'm wrong. But if you ask me about 2024, I'm definitely selling the fact that they're a championship team. Definitely because there's also a team in the AFC called the Kansas City Chiefs who have a head coach called Andy Reid and a quarterback called Patrick Mahomes. All right, moving forward. Jalen Hurts as an MVP candidate. Why is everybody just giving up on Jalen Hurts? He's a great leader. He's shown you that he's selfless. He's shown you that he's a team-first guy. Oh, and by the way, he's also shown you that he can lead a team, not just to the playoffs, but to the Super Bowl, and can perform well in the Super Bowl. So why have so many people been down on Jalen Hurts? So am I buying or selling him as an MVP candidate? I'm absolutely buying it. And the reason I'm buying it is because when you bring in a guy like Kellen Moore, who's been an offensive coordinator and done it at a high level, who's produced points for the Dallas Cowboys, and we know he was with the Chargers last year, Kellen Moore will incorporate, I think, what Jalen Hurts did 2 years ago. When you add Saquon Barkley and when you got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, in the fold, he can use the multitude of his arsenal as an individual. Anytime you have a true dual-threat quarterback who can throw for 3,500 or 4,000 yards and rush for 800 yards in the season, you have an opportunity to win MVP. See Lamar Jackson. Now, will he win it? I don't know. I think Mahomes is the favorite right now, and I think that's warranted. But I think Jalen Hurts is a bona fide MVP candidate, especially if he stays healthy. So I'm buying this opportunity for him to possibly be a candidate to win his first MVP as an NFL quarterback. Bengals winning the AFC North. Again, I sell this notion. I don't sell it because the Bengals can't win the division. They've won it 2 of the past 3 years. And I understand Lamar Jackson. If you're a Ravens fan, you can say, well, Lamar was hurt. I get all that. But the Bengals took advantage of a situation. But the reason I'm selling them winning the North this year is because did you know that Joe Burrow as a starting quarterback is 7-11 versus the AFC North? 7-11. Losing records against the Browns, losing record against the Ravens. And I also want to tell you, this is not the same Cincinnati team from 2 years ago. They don't have Jesse Bates any longer. They don't have DJ Reader, probably their best interior defensive lineman anymore. They no longer have Tyler Boyd. They no longer have Joe Mixon. When you have Joe Burrow, yes, you have an opportunity to compete. Jamar Chase is good. And defensively, they've got pieces that were there 2 years ago that they can still hold their hats on. But I'm not buying the Cincinnati Bengals ringing the North. I am selling that because, one, Joe Burrow's coming off of an injury last year like he did 2.5, 3 years ago. So that's 2 season-ending injuries. And I think the AFC North, when it comes to Cleveland and Baltimore, if all teams are healthy, I just think they're overall better. All right, that's buy or sell for today. When we come back from the break, it'll be your social media questions. More Move the Chains right after this. Welcome back to Move the Chains. Before we get into these social media questions, as always, I want to give all glory and honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this opportunity, and I want to thank you, the fans. Without you watching the show, it'd be irrelevant. It'd also be irrelevant without my production team. Shout out to the best production team in the business. Appreciate everything that they do. But all right, let's go ahead and get to it. It's time for your social media questions. Let's run second down. This is an opportunity for me to listen to what you have to say and to simply answer your questions. Social media is huge. And I think when we're talking about this segment, I really like it because I get a multitude of different questions and a multitude of different content from individuals. So let's go ahead and run and see what we have first. Should the NFL increase the salary cap? Love this conversation. No. NFL should not increase the salary cap. Now, it's probably going to increase because it's at $255 million now. Now, if you don't know what the NFL salary cap is, it's basically the allotted amount of money that each team has to spend to pay its players the 53-man roster throughout the season. So $255 million is the cap for 2024. That increased $30 million from what it was last year. Now, this is why I don't think it should increase. It has nothing to do with the players not getting their money. I'm for players getting their money, man. I want them to get as much as possible, and you're seeing it happen now, especially when it comes to quarterbacks and wide receivers. But the reason I don't want to see the salary cap increase is because it's strategic in my mind. I want to see how teams are able to make a decision on whom they want to keep. Are you going to pay this wide receiver $30 million a year and let this all-pro defensive lineman walk, or are you going to pay them both? If you look at the Miami Dolphins, they've got a lot of their salary cap tied into Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill, a quarterback and 2 receivers. Well, you understand that's their identity. Can they win that way? They lost guys like Robert Hunt on that offensive line. They lost Christian Wilkins to free agency as well, their best defensive lineman. So you have to make these choices. And I think because these choices have to be made, this is what differentiates great teams from good teams from bad teams, and bad teams from teams that are just never going to be good. I love it because it's a philosophy. It's a culture. It's a mindset. This is what I get from the salary cap. So don't increase the salary cap. Make these teams choose whom they think they need to build their team around based on their outlook of their mindset and the outlook of that team. When you get that, that's how you see teams differentiate themselves. And I love it because strategy to me is 100% one of the most important things you could be as an NFL franchise. All right, what do we have next? Is Brock Purdy a system quarterback? Yes, he's a system quarterback. But I'm not saying that like it's negative. Come back to me because I want everybody to see me when I say this. It's not negative to be a system quarterback. What quarterback isn't a system quarterback? See, every quarterback is a system quarterback, but there are quarterbacks who can operate outside of the system and still be effective. See, that's where you get into the elite conversation. But Brock Purdy, why do you think Kyle Shanahan loves Brock Purdy? Because he operates his system at a high level. Do you see every quarterback operating the system they operate the way Brock Purdy operates the system he operates? You don't. So the whole term about being a system quarterback to me is crazy because people look at it and put it on negative connotation on it. Being a system quarterback simply means that the offensive coordinator and the head coach have an offense that they want to run, and who's going to best fit this offense, who has the skill set, the mental capacity, and the acumen to do what we want to do on the field. So, yes, he's a system quarterback, but not for negative reasons. All right, and lastly, who wins the NFC West? Man, I was going back and forth on this even when I read the question before the show. I'm going to say the San Francisco 49ers, and I was this close to saying the LA Rams because I'm very, very intrigued by what the Rams have done without even being able to have first-round pick the past few years based on the trade they made with the Lions to get Matthew Stafford. But San Francisco, while I do think that there can be some issues if Brandon Ayuk isn't re-signed, if Trent Williams continues to hold out, they're still phenomenal on defense and on offense. They're well coached. And I think the standard for them is different because people think their championship window may be closing, because I'm on that wagon just a little bit. I still think they're good enough to win the NFC West. I don't think it'll be a runaway campaign for the 49ers, but I think by the end of the season, they'll be the best team in the NFC West, and they'll host a home playoff game. All right, that's all for your social media questions. When we come back, my favorite segment of the show, it's Nonsense Narrative. We'll be back and we'll move the chains right after this. All right, and welcome back. So you know what time it is. This is my favorite segment of the show, and I think I've got a doozy today, man. Like, I'm going to hit it hard, so let's not even waste any time. It's time for the Nonsense Narrative. The lower third is about to come up, and you know what it's going to say, that coaches or players matter more. That's the narrative I want to be. And the reason, you saw Tom Brady right here, right? You see him next to me. What's the argument that everybody has? Who was more the reason of the success of the New England Patriots, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? One, I can't stand the argument because to me it's stupid. I'm sorry. And if you've participated in the argument, I'm not calling you stupid, I'm calling the argument stupid. And the reason I say this is because at what point in time has it not always been both? At what point in time has the player and the coach not both had a huge amount in terms of the impact on a team's success or a team's failure? And this is what everybody would say. Well, you know, Tom Brady left New England and went to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl. That proves Brady was more responsible. Let me tell you something. Tom Brady is probably the best quarterback in NFL history up to this point. I think that will be surpassed moving forward in the next decade or so. But right now he is. There's no arguing that, especially the most accomplished. So let me ask you a question for those who say, you know, he went to Tampa Bay and they won a Super Bowl, so he proves it. Did Tampa Bay win the division without Tom Brady last year? They did. Did Tampa Bay win a playoff game without Tom Brady last year? They did. And they lost in the divisional round against the Lions, and Tampa Bay was a possession away from going to the NFC Championship game. That's not saying they were better without Tom Brady. That's me simply saying the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are an organization that had a lot of great pieces, and Brady helped take them over the top, no doubt. But remember, Tom Brady threw 3 picks. He threw 3 interceptions in the NFC Championship game when the Bucs won the Super Bowl when they played in Green Bay. And the defense was the reason the Bucs didn't give up that lead. And I'll also ask you this. When you say Brady's more responsible, because I told you I think Belichick and Brady are equally responsible. They both have jobs to do. If Brady never played in New England, would he be the same player that he was when he went to Tampa Bay? Would he be the Tom Brady we have now if he never played under Bill Belichick? He wouldn't be. You know how I know that? Because he said as much. He said so. And we know they didn't have the best relationship towards the end of that career in New England for Tom Brady. We understand that. That doesn't mean he doesn't understand how great Bill Belichick is. Remember, Belichick was winning Super Bowls as the defensive coordinator for the Giants before he even got to New England. So I'm tired of people trying to sit here and tell me that Brady's more important than Belichick or Belichick's more important than Brady. Man, it was a package deal. Belichick became the coach he was because of Brady. Look at Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid was going to NFC Championship games left and right. He was always a good coach. What took him over the edge? What put him on the Mount Rushmore of coaches probably now? Acquiring Patrick Mahomes, getting Travis Kelce, getting Chris Jones. I've never seen a top-flight coach win without top-flight talent, and I've never really seen top-flight talent win championships without top-flight coaching. Why are we always trying to create this divide as if it has to be one or the other? I know it may be good fodder and back and forth on television, stuff like that. I don't roll that way on this show. You know that. I'm about substance. And the truth of the matter is, Brady and Belichick were hugely reasons on why this team was successful. And I don't care, to my grave, I'm going to continue to say that. So if you ask me that question, just understand that moving forward, the player doesn't matter more, the coach doesn't matter more. They both matter regardless of the situation. And if you have one or the other that can't get the job done, you're likely not going to be successful the way you want to be. All right, that's my nonsense narrative for the week. When we come back, it'll be the final segment of the show, which means it'll be the final drive. Back when we move the chains, right after this. And welcome back into the show. It's the final segment of the show, and you know what that means. It's time for the final drive. Listen, man, I'm excited when the Hall of Fame enshrinees are done and when people get inducted and things of that nature. But, man, Devin Hester, that dude is special, man. That guy right there, man, and the reason he's special, I think he is the true definition of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to a football player. Do you know that this man had over 10,000 receiving yards in his career? He also ran the ball as a running back. He also caught the ball as a wide receiver. He also played some defense. Like Devin Hester did everything. And it kind of reminds me of the designated hitter in Major League Baseball. Like somebody who has a specialized skill, who is a one-trick pony, so to speak, in that regard. But that's not Devin Hester. Like, he was the epitome of an all-around football player. And while he was never considered the best receiver or best running back, he was the best returner in the game, which is why he's in Canton. Congratulations to D. Hester. All right, don't forget, you can not only catch Move the Chains on the Sports Leader, WXTX Fox 54, but also on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel, @move_the_chains. Leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, leave a question, because it's always appreciated. All right, another banger, man. We killed it. Hey, for everybody back in production, I'm your boy, Jonathan Bam Rivers, and until next time on Move the Chains, God bless.